The sound of $15,000 shattering against white marble is sharper than you think. It sounds like a gunshot. My name is Brianna. I am 26 years old. And I know this sound because my sister Kelsey just shoved me and my matte black carbon fiber wheelchair straight into a vintage crystal champagne tower. The theme of her gala was winter white. And apparently, I was a stain on her perfect aesthetic. She wanted the perfect live stream angle. I just wanted to exist. When I refused to hide, she snapped. Now. I'm bleeding on the floor. And she isn't checking my pulse, she's checking her view count. Stop right there. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever been told to make yourself invisible, just to keep the peace in your family? I want to know I'm not the only one. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just lay there on the cold marble and let the silence stretch. Crying is what they expect. Crying is messy. Crying makes you look hysterical. But silence makes people look at you. Really look at you. And right now, they were looking at a woman in a shattered heap of glass and flowers, bleeding onto the pristine white floor while her sister stood above her, holding a phone. The pain hit me a second later. A sharp, hot line across my cheek where a shard of the crystal tower had sliced me. The dull throb in my shoulder where I'd hit the floor. But the worst part wasn't the physical pain. It was the familiar, suffocating realization that even now, even bleeding on the floor, I was an inconvenience. Oh my God, Kelsey's voice wasn't worried. It was annoyed. She lowered her phone. But I noticed she didn't stop recording. Brianna, why didn't you lock your brakes? You slipped right into the display. She was already rewriting history. Before the champagne had even stopped dripping, she was editing the narrative. She slipped. She's clumsy. She ruined the party. I watched her face. She looked beautiful and terrified. But not for me. She was terrified for her engagement metrics. She took a step toward me, reaching out with her manicured hand to grab my arm. Probably to yank me up and hide the mess before more people noticed. Don't you touch her. The voice cut through the room like a scalpel. It was low, authoritative, and absolutely terrifying. Dr. Patricia Vance pushed through the crowd. I knew her as William's godmother, the woman who sent generous checks on birthdays. But in this moment, she wasn't a godmother. She was the chief of orthopedic trauma at City General. She didn't walk, she marched. She dropped her Hermes clutch onto the wet floor without a second thought and knelt beside me. Her hands were on my neck instantly. Firm. Professional. Stabilizing my cervical spine. Brianna, listen to me, she said, her voice calm in the chaos. Do not move your head. Do not try to sit up. Look at me. I'm okay, I whispered. You are not okay, she corrected. You have a prior lone injury. You just took a fall from a height onto a hard surface. We are not taking chances. Kelsey hovered above us, her face flushing pink. Patricia, you're overreacting. She just fell. Help me get her back in the chair so we can clean this up. The lighting is fading. Doctor. Vance didn't even look up. She kept her hands locked on my neck. William, she barked. William, my sister's fiancé, jumped. He looked pale. Useless. Standing there with a half-empty glass of wine. Call 911. Doctor, Vance ordered. Right now. What? Kelsey shrieked. No, don't call the police. It's a private event. We don't need a scene. This isn't a scene. Kelsey. Doctor, Vance said, her voice cold enough to freeze the spilled champagne. This is a trauma ward intake. Tell the operator, we have a 30-year-old female. Paraplegic. Fall victim with potential spinal compromise. And tell them to send police. I am reporting an assault. Assault, Kelsey laughed. A brittle, high-pitched sound. Are you crazy? I barely touched her. She lost her balance. I looked up at Dr. Vance. Her eyes were locked on mine. She saw it. She saw the shove. She saw the intent. For 26 years, I had waited for someone to see the truth of my family. I thought it would feel like victory. Instead, it felt like relief. When the paramedics arrived, they tried to ask Kelsey to step back. She started arguing, explaining that she was the bride-to-be, that this was her venue, that I was prone to accidents. A police officer stepped in between us. He looked tired. He looked at the broken glass, the blood on my white dress, and then at Kelsey's pristine gown. He crouched down next to the backboard as they strapped me in. "Ma'am," he said to me, "we have witnesses saying you were pushed. Do you want to press charges?" I looked at Kelsey. She was glaring at me, mouthing the word, "Don't." She expected me to do what I always did. Absorb the blow. Clean up the mess. Fade into the background so she could shine. I took a breath. The air smelled of expensive wine and copper. "Yes," I said. "I want to press charges." 2 hours earlier, I had been in my bathroom, staring at myself in the mirror. I looked acceptable. The dress was silk, bias cut, a shade of ivory that my mother insisted was winter white, but looked suspiciously like cream under the harsh vanity lights. It fit perfectly. It should have. I had spent 3 weeks altering it myself. Late at night, after my freelance design shifts were over, I spun my chair around, checking the angles. The dress pooled elegantly over my legs, hiding the atrophy, hiding the spasms that sometimes hit when I was tired. From the waist up, I looked like anyone else. From the waist down, I was machinery. My chair was a Panthera X carbon fiber model. It cost $8,500. It weighed less than 10 pounds. It was sleek, matte black, and looked more like a piece of aerospace engineering than a medical device. When I bought it 6 months ago, I had felt a surge of pride so intense it almost made me dizzy. I had paid for it myself. Every penny. My parents hadn't contributed a dime. $8,000 for a chair, my father had said when I told him the price. "Brianna, be reasonable. The insurance one works fine. Why do you always need the most expensive option?" "Because the insurance one weighs 40 pounds, I'd said. "Because I can't lift it into my car by myself. Because this one gives me my life back." "Well, we can't help you," my mother had added, not looking up from her iPad. "We're saving for the gala. You know how important this launch is for Kelsey's brand." Kelsey's brand. That was the religion in our house. My sister wasn't just a person. She was an entity. A curated collection of lifestyle tips, fashion hauls, and authentic moments that were about as real as a $3 bill. My parents were her managers, her publicists, her biggest fans. I was the shadow, the tech support, the person who edited the photos to make sure the lighting was perfect, but who was never allowed in the frame. I had accepted it for a long time. They called it keeping the peace. I called it survival. There's a psychological term for it: learned helplessness. It's what happens when you're conditioned to believe that you have no control over your situation. So you stop trying to change it. You just endure. You learn to make yourself small. You learn that your needs are demands, and your pain is drama. You learn to be grateful for the roof over your head, even if the walls are closing in. It's like an invisible chain. You don't see it, but you feel the weight of it every time you try to step out of line. It pulls you back. It whispers, "Don't bother. Nobody cares. You're lucky they put up with you at all." So I wore the white dress. I did my hair in the soft waves Kelsey liked. I made sure my makeup was flawless but not flashy. I checked all the boxes. I played my role. The supportive sister. The background character. But the chair. The chair was my one act of rebellion. "Can't you cover it?" my mother had asked when I rolled into the living room that evening. "It's so black. It clashes with the theme." "It's my legs, Mom," I said. I can't cover my legs. You could drape a throw over it, Kelsey suggested, scrolling through her phone. Like a white faux fur. That would be chic. It's a wheelchair, Kelsey, not a sofa. God. You're so difficult, she sighed. Just try not to be in the main shots. Okay. The black ruins the aesthetic. I promised I would try. That was the chain pulling tight. Be invisible. Don't ruin it. But as I sat in the ambulance, watching the city lights blur past the window, I realized something. The chain had snapped. It didn't break when she pushed me. It broke the moment I looked at her face and saw that she didn't care if I was hurt. Only if I was hideous. The paramedic was asking me questions. Can you feel this? Can you wiggle your toes? No, I said. I haven't felt my toes in 2 years. Right. Sorry. He checked my vitals. Blood pressure is high. Pulse is racing. You're in shock. I'm not in shock, I said, staring at the roof of the ambulance. I'm just finally awake. The invisible chain was gone, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of what would happen next. I was ready. The VIP riser was a platform of white lacquer, floating 3 feet above the main floor. It was the stage, the altar, the place where Kelsey was supposed to be worshipped. From up there, the guests looked like a sea of white foam. And the crystal champagne tower, a $15,000 sculpture of vintage baccarat flutes, glittered like a second sun. I was parked on the edge of the riser. My parents were to my right, beaming at the crowd, holding their frozen smiles like masks. Kelsey was in the center, holding her phone up, finding her light. Okay. Guys, she chirped to the camera, her voice pitch perfect for the algorithm. We are live at the Winter White Gala. Look at this venue. Look at the vibes. She spun around, catching the room. The flowers. The parents. Then the camera lens swept over me. She stopped. Her smile twitched. She lowered the phone, her thumb hovering over the pause button. Brianna, she hissed, her voice dropping an octave. You are ruining the shot. You look like a black hole in the middle of a snowstorm. Move back. I can't move back, Kelsey, I said, locking my brakes. There's no rail. If I move back, I fall off the riser, then go down to the floor, hide behind the DJ booth or something. Just get out of the frame. I am your sister, I said, my voice shaking just a little. I am not a prop you can put in storage. She stared at me. It wasn't the look of a sister. It was the look of a director dealing with a malfunctioning set piece. She looked around, her eyes landing on a service table where a stack of spare white damask tablecloths sat. She grabbed one. She snapped it open. Fine, she said. If you won't move, we'll improvise. She walked toward me, the heavy white fabric billowing in her hands. She was going to cover me. She was actually going to drape a tablecloth over me and my wheelchair like I was a piece of ugly furniture that needed a slipcover. Kelsey. Stop, I said. Just sit still. It will look like an art installation. Avant-garde. Right. She threw the cloth. It landed on my face, heavy and smelling of starch. The world went white. For a split second, I was back in the car 2 years ago, trapped, unable to see, unable to move. Panic, cold and sharp, spiked in my chest. I didn't think. I reacted. I reached up, grabbed the heavy fabric, and threw it off. I didn't just remove it. I shoved it back at her. No, I said. It was loud. It wasn't a request. Kelsey stumbled back, tangling in the cloth. She caught her balance. And when she looked up at me, her face had changed. The influencer mask was gone. The sister was gone. There was nothing left but a blank, terrifying void. There is a specific term for what happened in that moment. Narcissistic injury. It isn't just anger. It is what happens when a narcissist's false self, the perfect, the curated image they project to the world, is challenged. When I threw that cloth back, I didn't just say no to a request. I shattered her delusion. I asserted that I was a person, not an object. To a narcissist, that is not a boundary. It is a threat to their existence. And the only response to a threat is total annihilation. She didn't scream. She didn't argue. She just lunged. "You ungrateful little cripple," she whispered. Her hands hit my shoulders. Hard. It wasn't a stumble. It wasn't an accident. She braced her feet, locked her elbows, and shoved. I felt my wheels slide on the slick lacquer. I felt the edge of the riser disappear beneath me. And then I was falling. Backward and down. Toward the crystal tower that cost more than my dignity. I saw my parents' faces as I fell. They weren't moving to catch me. They were just watching. Frozen. Waiting to see if the image could be saved. It couldn't. My hospital room was a suite. Dr. Vance's doing. It had a view of the skyline and sheets that didn't smell like bleach. But the best feature was the security guard outside the door, instructing him to only allow visitors on the approved list. My parents were not on that list, but they were persistent. "They're causing a disturbance in the lobby," the nurse told me, looking apologetic. "Your mother is threatening to call the press." "Let them in," I said. 5 minutes. I needed to see it. I needed to look them in the eye one last time to make sure I wasn't leaving anything behind. They didn't bring flowers. They didn't bring a change of clothes. My mother walked in holding her iPad, her face tight with the specific kind of stress that comes from PR crises. Not maternal worry. My father followed, looking annoyed, like he'd been called out of a meeting for a parking ticket. "Thank God you're awake," my mother said. She didn't come to the bedside. She stayed by the door. "We need to fix this immediately. Kelsey has a partnership with a major skincare line pending. If this police report leaks, the morality clause kicks in. She loses everything." She pushed me into a tower of glass. I said. My voice was raspy. "I have 30 stitches in my face and shoulder." "It was an accident," my father snapped. She was stressed. "You provoked her by refusing the photo." "I provoked her by existing in a wheelchair," I said. "Stop being dramatic," my mother added. "We'll spin this, say you had a medical episode and fell. Kelsey tried to catch you. It protects the brand." I finally saw them clearly, no concern. No love, just strategy. I was a broken asset they needed to write off. "Did you ask the doctor about new spinal damage?" I asked. Silence. "Get out. We're not leaving until you drop the charges," my father insisted. "No. Kelsey destroyed this family. You're just selling the wreckage." Security escorted them out while my mother screamed. I felt calm. Then I called Mr. Sterling. "Send it. The settlement demand is $850. 000, he said, the exact amount tied to the equity of the estate they worshipped. "Do it. Give them 24 hours. Their response, a counteroffer of $50. 000, and an apology post. It was insulting. Predictable. They thought I'd cave out of guilt. "Dr. Vance entered with a laptop. "They assume the Gala assault is our only leverage," she said. But the car accident story was a lie. She played a recovered live stream, Kelsey driving at 80 miles per hour, filming herself while I slept in the passenger seat. The crash. The chaos. And then my parents telling her to hand over the phone. Ordering my unconscious body moved into the driver's seat before police arrived. "Mr. Sterling's voice was icy. "This is fraud. Evidence tampering. Even attempted manslaughter." "Send it," I said. "And raise the price." "To what?" "Everything." They didn't fight. They couldn't. The video was a guillotine. Within days, they sold the estate, the cars, the portfolios, everything, to save Kelsey from prison. Then my mother called. Broken. We have nothing left. You've ruined us. I didn't ruin you, I said. I balanced the ledger. A notification chimed. Transfer. Complete $850. 0, 0, 0. I blocked them all. A year later, in my accessible Chicago loft, I'm funding exoskeleton therapy. Walking again inside a robotic suit. Money didn't fix my spine, it gave me choices. Freedom. Kelsey vanished from the internet. My parents live quietly in a rental. My wheelchair no longer feels like a punishment. It feels like a chariot. The crystal tower is gone. The white dress is gone. And me, I'm finally living in color.